Good evening. Welcome everybody to tonight's session, the last session that we are having of this 3-day series. I'm so excited to have you back on the call. If any of you want to put your cameras on, that's great. I'm happy to see your beautiful faces. If not, and you need to be incognito behind the scenes, hi Vanessa, great to hear from you. I hope you're feeling better tonight. Hello Simone. I know there are a few people who aren't able to join tonight, so I have made sure, I hope that this recording is going to work and everyone can catch up live or on the replay. So I'm going to get into the meat of tonight's discussion. Sorry for the vegetarians on the call. We're not going to be speaking about that much meat, but I mean get into the real nitty-gritty of what I want to discuss with you tonight. So amazing messages on the WhatsApp group. It's always incredible to see, and I've also received some private messages, so thank you to those of you who've sent me some private messages. It seems, and I can see from the messages I'm receiving, that you are all feeling so much more, I would say, in control, motivated, inspired to make more nourishing choices. And what I shared with you on the first night about being able to be mindful before you eat something as to how you want to feel once that meal is over, I think seems to have shifted quite a dynamic in the choices that you are making. So on a call today with a client of mine, she's been watching on the replay and we've been working together for a while, but this really hit home for her because she was able to make a more mindful choice before starting her meal as to how she wanted to feel afterwards. And it's been quite liberating for her. So if any of you are finding, I'd love you to just message in the chat. If this is a tool that you feel that you can continue to implement in the long run, that is a wonderful way to really get going and embrace feeling more or better able to choose foods that really make you feel good, that benefit your energy levels, that don't make you feel depleted after a meal. I know one of the ladies sent a message saying that she knows that if she has a banana, it causes her brain fog, and she was naturally starting to eat it. It doesn't feel like a fruit would do that to you, but for some people, they are more sensitive to it. And she realized as she was starting to eat it out of just a normal habit that she didn't want to feel like this after the meal. So she put the rest away. And it was a wonderful experience for her to have this ability to make a decision, even in the middle of eating something, that would allow her to feel good after that meal. So this is a very valuable tool, and I hope that you'll be able to continue to implement it going forward. Then last night, we met the inner saboteur, which are a number of different voices that really try to railroad your best efforts at achieving lasting results. And when you understand this dynamic of the very critical part of us that tries to keep us on track. In fact, I discussed also today with another client in her consultation about who that critical voice is, because very often we internalize a voice that we've heard in our life. So it could be the voice of a parent that was always trying to get you to do something that they knew would be beneficial for you, but came across perhaps in a harsh way. And when we internalize that voice and add to it ourselves, it becomes this critical inner voice that we then hear. Then there is that child within us who feels overwhelmed and depleted. And one of the ladies who's watching on Facebook had typed in the chat about having a tantrum, that her child was doing that in front of her right then and there. And it was very interesting for her to be able to witness that this is what was going on. So she could very, very much resonate and identify with it because of the fact that this was playing out right in front of her. Then there's that rescuer, the part of us that is a nurturer, that wants to save us, that wants to take away the overwhelm and the pain and the depletion and the frustration through food or through other methods. But in this forum, we're speaking more about food. So we understand now a very broad concept about this dynamic, and how when we activate more of the adult in us, the more mature and wise part of ourselves, that can then take over the reins of this conversation, we are better able to not be so reactive in our choices with food, because we are not engaging in this relationship that circles round and round. So that is just a brief recap of what we experienced and what we went through over the last 2 nights. And in tonight, I'd really like to address a little bit more about why nourishing your body over 40 is so very different. So in general, when we start aging as women, and it can happen from as early as 35 onwards, you don't have to be in your 40s to experience this. The body slowly starts reducing the amount of estrogen that it produces. Progesterone as well, but predominantly estrogen is the one that starts decreasing slowly over the years until eventually you come to menopause, where estrogen is almost completely depleted and you stop having a period. What the body is meant to do over this period of time, as estrogen is reducing, is it tries to compensate for the fact that your ovaries are now no longer producing the same amount of estrogen. And there are glands called the adrenal glands, which are responsible for taking over the production of estrogen. Where this goes a little bit haywire, or doesn't always happen according to plan, is when we experience stress in our lives. And why stress plays such a big role on how you will experience this period of perimenopause and menopause, and how severe the symptoms will be, all depends on whether you are managing your stress, because your adrenal glands are responsible not only for taking over the production of estrogen, but they produce cortisol as well. And cortisol is the hormone in our body that is necessary, but when we have too much of it, it causes a problem for us with increased blood sugar levels, because our body needs more sugar when we are under stress. We need to be able to run away from danger. And there's such a long explanation, but I'm giving you a very brief synopsis tonight. So our body, when we are stressed, increases its own production of cortisol, its own production of blood sugar, which then increases the amount of insulin that your body needs in order to put that sugar, that glucose, into the cells. And when we are eating as we need to, as well as feeling stressed with our body increasing its own production of sugar and glucose, what ends up happening is our body starts to store very, very effectively. And in this period of time where it is normal to either struggle to lose excess weight, or all of a sudden pick up weight that is very challenging to lose, is because of the dynamic of what is going on with your body now reducing its own production of estrogen, wanting the adrenal glands to take over the production of estrogen. They can't necessarily compensate entirely for it if you're going under a lot of stress. And therefore, you end up in this dynamic where you feel that no matter what you're doing, you just can't shift this extra weight. So what we traditionally do in our 20s and 30s, and when we are able to do it with greater ease, is we have tricks of the trade. You'll try a diet, and the truth is, the first time anybody ever goes on a diet, they generally lose weight quite easily, because the body has never experienced a reduction in calories perhaps before, or removing a whole food group. And it's very simple or fairly simple to lose the extra weight and feel good about it. And in fact, you may even keep it off for longer in your 20s and 30s. But the problem with restrictive dieting and restricting intake and counting calories and feeling deprived is that that adds to stress in the body. And when you are over the age of 40, if you are practicing restrictive eating, not getting enough energy into your body for what your daily needs are, plus you have this dynamic of increased cortisol levels from normal stress, what ends up happening is that you are just storing and very weight loss resistant. So how do we go about correcting this? There's a number of different ways that we need to address to managing these symptoms, as well as how to shed this extra weight over the age of 40. So we know that strict dieting and in fact severe intense exercise can actually cause weight gain at this time of life. I'm all for exercise and I encourage it, but sometimes if you are very stressed and then you do a very stressful workout, it can actually have the opposite effect of what you're trying to achieve. So for your own individual situation, it's important to get advice about exactly where you are at and what the right exercise is for you. When it comes to the approach that I encourage my clients to have, it is threefold. So there are three different aspects to how I guide my clients as well as the participants in my Wellness Upgrade program, which I'll tell you a little bit more about later, to really shift this dynamic. So we look at, first of all, what are the dieting messages, the thoughts and beliefs that you hold around food, and we look at what has worked for you in the past, what may currently be working to a degree, and how that needs to change. Part of this whole assessment and understanding where you're at is looking at the physiology and understanding in much greater detail what support your body needs from nutrition. So we look at, in a lot more detail than I'm explaining tonight, how these hormone shifts and changes in your body affect your appetite, your cravings, your ability to process certain foods. Very commonly over this age, women start dealing with more symptoms of IBS, more of this irritable bowel syndrome. You get more bloating, you can be more gassy, you can be more constipated, perhaps even have diarrhea, but very irregular bowel movements as well. And this is all part of the changes that are going on in your body. So it's being able to understand and support your body with the right foods to be eating, depending on the symptoms that you are experiencing. And there again, it is very person specific. So there's general advice and then there's what is right for you. So one of the things that I like to encourage is paying attention to what foods will cause big increases in blood sugar level. And we try to flatten that blood sugar curve to make sure that you are not spiking your blood sugar level after eating a meal, because that in itself will stress the body, increase insulin, as well as then increase the potential to pick up weight and not be able to shed it so easily. So what else do we look at? We look at what foods are good for your mood, because there are certain foods that are more beneficial, like your omega-3 fatty acids, your phytoestrogens, and that all falls under the category of how to best nourish your gut as well, because our gut and the gut microbiome, I think I may have alluded to it in very briefly in one of the other discussions. If I haven't, I'll go into a little bit of detail here. But our gut microbiome is really responsible for keeping us as healthy as possible. When we have a gut dysbiosis, which means that the balance of the flora in our gut, the good bacteria in our gut are out of sync, what happens is that there's a specific enzyme that is responsible for balancing estrogen in the body, and it exists in the gut. So if we are not eating well and we have this gut dysbiosis, it can reduce our body's ability to process our own estrogen and balance our estrogen. What happens in the gut sends a message straight to our brain. So the foods that we're choosing to eat also affect our mood, how we think, and therefore our actions and behaviors out in the world. So it's important to understand the right foods to be eating. So under that umbrella, we look at your omega-3 fatty acid rich foods, things like chia seeds and ground flax seeds, walnuts, avocado, olive oil, olives, your fatty fish like salmon. All of those are very beneficial, not only for the gut, but for our brain as well. So that is a very broad explanation of what foods would be good for us. We also look at things like phytoestrogens, where there's a lot of debate about whether phytoestrogens we should be eating them. Do they, especially if people are susceptible to breast cancer, should we be including phytoestrogens in the body? So that's another whole area that needs to be discussed. Naomi, did you want to ask a question? Hold on, let me unmute you then. Give me a second. Or you can type it in the chat. Let me just... Okay, you should be able to unmute yourself now if you wanted to ask something. You can't. Okay. There you go.
Oh, you see it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Hi. You were using a word before estrogen. I didn't catch that word.
It's called phytoestrogens.
That was it. Okay. It could have been the accent. I don't know what. I'm just saying. Sorry. Thank you.
That's okay. Thank you for asking me to clarify. For those of you out there who don't get the South African accent, phytoestrogens. Is that better? Okay, good. All right. Excellent. Okay. So let me not lose my train of thought. Okay, so we look at all the nutrition aspects to what is important to support your body. Then the next pillar that's very important to pay attention to is how you are dealing with your stress, what thoughts you are experiencing, and we look at similar things to what we discussed on Tuesday night, things like increasing willpower or structuring your life better in order to be able to deal with low energy and cravings. We want to be able to have this inner dynamic and inner dialogue that is more positive. We look at things like, I've got all these tricks up my sleeve that I want to share with you, and I don't even have time to go through it all. Okay, so but there's very much a strong component on mindset, on managing stress, on how you think and feel about food and your body, and really moving away from the strict dieting mindset, because we, as I said, it can actually put more stress and pressure on your body in midlife, and it's something that is not supporting the goals that you're trying to achieve. The final pillar that I feel is very important and cannot be ignored is that of our own essence and our own connection to our neshama, to our soul, because when we leave that element out of the equation, there's a whole part of us that we're ignoring. I love the fact that I'm actually doing this class just before the month of Shvat starts, because in the month of Shvat, the energy of the month of Shvat is all about elevating our eating habits and rectifying any eating patterns and behaviors that we are struggling with or grappling. So if there was a time to be embracing, taking on a new way of thinking about how you eat, approaching your relationship with food and your body, now is the perfect time to do it. So when we include in the process that part of ourselves, our neshama component, we start to change how we think and feel about food from that perspective, which means that every time we are sitting down to eat a meal, we are able to engage with that food not only in a physical way, but in a spiritual way as well. I think everyone on the call is Jewish, so I'm going to go a little bit deeper when it comes to this. But there is a wonderful shiur that I listened to from Rabbi Lappin last year, and he speaks about the neshama component of food. There's another wonderful shiur by, I've got to remember her name now, she's a rabbinit who's moved to Beit Shemesh, Rabbinit Cohen, and she also speaks about how we are able to access this other aspect of food in order to be able to elevate the food and elevate ourselves through the process of eating. So when we start engaging with food, not only as the nourishment that it's going to give my body or the fuel that it's going to give my body, but as a means of elevating the food, elevating my neshama, and helping through that whole process with that mindset to approach food in a more respectful way. That food is no longer something that I am either trying to control and restrict severely, or I feel so out of control with it and therefore so uncomfortable in my body. When we use food to soothe or numb our difficult emotions, we are in that respect not giving the cover, not giving the respect to the food that we are eating or to our own body or to ourselves. So there are three different aspects to how we approach nourishing your body over 40, breaking the cycle of restrictive thoughts and restrictive patterns of how you may be approaching food, and really starting to feel more confident about what it is that you should be eating, because there is so much confusion out there about should you be doing intermittent fasting, should you be doing keto, paleo, Noom, Weight Watchers. What is the right approach? And what I truly believe is that this new era of approaching food in a way that encompasses you as a whole in a very holistic way, where we are focusing not only on food choices, but how that works in the body, understanding how that works in the body, and therefore choosing foods in line with the outcome that you're wanting to achieve. Healing this mindset component, how to think about food in a more positive way, how to think about yourself and your body in a more positive way, and that relationship, and really begin to be able to heal that dynamic. There is so much to be said about how to approach weight and weight loss. And as much as this is such a real concern for, I would imagine, all of you on the call, because as women, this is something that we deal with. When we are only focused on losing weight, we are opening ourselves to still engage in negative patterns and behaviors when it comes to food, which means that we either end up restricting or we end up overindulging. And there is a beautiful, balanced middle path between the two that focuses on nourishing you as a whole, that eventually the final outcome is a reduction in weight or shedding the extra weight. But when we are only focused on weight as the final outcome, what ends up happening is a lot of disordered patterns and behaviors as a result. So with your permission, I'd love to share with you a little bit about the work that I do and what the options are that I offer, because I can see that so many of you are inspired, and I'd love to share with you a little bit more about how I take my clients through this process. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Let me see how I can do that. Okay, everybody can see, okay? Give me a thumbs up that you can see I've shared the right screen here. Okay, all right, so starting on January 31st is the next round of enrollment for my wellness upgrade program. So I work not only one-on-one together with clients, but I also have a program that is a 12-week program that I take the participants through these 3 pillars of working on the nutrition, mindset, and then the relationship with self component. So if it is something that appeals to you, if you are looking for more of a holistic way to nourish your body during these perimenopause and menopause years, we look at introducing more mindful eating practices, intuitively learning more about what your body needs. Today I spoke to one of the participants, and she finally is feeling that she's not so weight focused anymore, and she's recognizing, she feels that she's more in tune and intuitive with her body, that for her, she needs to eat more in the morning, and she feels like the afternoon for her is not quite as important. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to come to really get to trust what your body's messages are telling you. So that's one of the things that we go through. This is specifically aimed at women who are quite frustrated with weight gain or with stubborn weight loss attempts. It's aimed at finding more of your freedom with food and peace with your relationship with food and your body. It's incredibly focused on unlearning dieting messages and food rules that cause so much frustration for you as well. The aim is to build practical habits so that you have step-by-step processes of from week to week, what to include, what to be working on that week, and really to start to feel more empowered to listen to your body and really trust yourself to take care of your own nutrition needs. So what it entails over the 12-week program, first of all, I do an intake assessment with each person that we work with. From the next enrollment, which starts Tuesday, the 31st of January, which is just less than 2 weeks' time, we do a group coaching call, which is an hour, 7:30 Israel time. Generally, I do about a 25 to 30-minute teaching on the concept of the week, and then we do a Q&A. Every week, there's a pre-call assessment that you would fill out. Then there's a monthly one-to-one session that you have together with me so that you get individual support as well. There's also email support. So if you have email questions and you want to ask those privately and not on the group, that's something else that you have available to you during my office hours. Then I have also an exclusive Facebook group for the participants and a WhatsApp group, which I find the WhatsApp group is actually a lot more active and it's great, and a lot of recipes are shared on there and encouragement is given on there. It's a wonderful sense of community. So what does this all entail? I'm running a very, very low cost early bird special rate for the beginning of January. So if you are interested in this and you want to sign up and register before Sunday night at 8 o'clock, you get the lowest price of 2,700 shekels, which is for the 12-week program. You can do monthly payments at a slightly different fee. And after Sunday, the other special January rate is 3,200 shekels, and that is for people who are looking to enroll until 6 o'clock on Thursday night. So I'm cutting off enrollment then because I'm aiming at doing a kickoff call with all the participants at about 7:30 on Thursday night. And there again, you can have monthly payments if that works for you. I do also have a VIP package, which is a little bit more comprehensive. So if that's something that you feel you would benefit more from, you can contact me and I'll give you more pricing on that. And that includes over and above the intake assessment and the 3 one-on-one monthly calls is the monthly calls. This is an extra 3 one-on-one sessions as well as a personalized plan. So if this is something that appeals to you, if you're feeling interested but not quite sure if this is the next step for you, if you are motivated and feeling inspired from what we have discussed and worked together over the last few nights, then I will put my Calendly link. I'll be sending an email out with it as well if you want to book a time to chat with me. If you want to know about next steps, if this is not the right time for you, we can discuss those as well. if there's one specific area that you want a little bit of guidance with, I'm happy to chat you through that as well. So that is what I have on offer. This is a wonderful testimonial that I received from one of the participants. And it's amazing to see that there's life after dieting, there's life after 40. There is a way to be able to still embrace your enjoyment of food, because that is so crucial and so important, to be able to feel like you are more in control of your food choices and that you are not swaying from emotional food choice to another emotional food choice, or feeling like you want to make progress, but you don't really know where to start. So whether this is right for you, or you want to consider doing another type of session with me, sometimes people just book in for a 1-hour session to get clarity on where they are and where they need to be, and I give them some tips on their current situation. That's also an option. So I encourage you to take the momentum that you have already created from just 2 days, from the last 2 days, and hopefully a little bit more from tonight. And you are really able to use this to propel you forward, and use the energy of the month of Shvat to really access the ability to start rectifying some of the eating habits that may be keeping you feeling very frustrated, or that you're always fighting with yourself or with food. It's time to stop the struggle. It's time to stop that tug of war between, do I restrict, am I overeating, and really be able to build a relationship of confidence within yourself of how to nourish your body, and trust yourself to really make peace with this process. So that is the end of my presentation for tonight. I would love to take questions if any of you have. If you have questions from the last 2 nights as well, I'm very happy to answer those. I'm just going to, exit my screen here if I can. Sorry, everybody. For some reason, the call just dropped. I'm glad you're all still there. So I'd love to take some questions if you have for me.
I feel like it's about 1 day a month I get hungry like crazy. Like I'm a forager in my kitchen. It's like something comes over me, and it's only like never more than 1 day a month. And okay, so I'm not menstruating, so I can't figure out like, why is it this time of the month, but it's nuts. Like I'm standing in my kitchen, I'm going, okay, reach for the dried fruit instead of the chocolate, reach for this here. But that it's like there's somebody chasing me in the house. It's crazy. Wow. And it's only like never more than once a month. It's that crazy. And I go, oh no, it's that crazy day again. I can't explain it.
So it's very interesting. Even though you may not be getting your period anymore, you still have fluctuations in your hormone levels in your body. And it is very possible that you still have residual estrogen. It never goes away completely, but it may be a slight more of a dip than you used to at that time that is causing that almost like premenstrual or menstrual kind of a reaction that you're experiencing. So this is something, and it's interesting that you bring it up, because it's very normal over this dynamic changing, whether you're in perimenopause or menopause, or you stop menstruating postmenopausal, that cravings are a very real part of these shifts in hormone levels. And when you know how to manage them better, it allows you to keep your blood sugar level more stable on days that you're having those kind of dips, that you feel hungry, or that you feel that you're reaching for more of the chocolates or the sweets or the whatever it needs to be?
I mean, like usually one small piece of bread, kusmin, made of whatever that is. And, that a whole wheat, is usually very filling for me. On days like that, it's like, I have to have another one. I stick another one in the toaster. It's like wild.
So it's interesting. There's a way.
It's like I'm watching myself and I'm not believing this movie,
Okay, so luckily it's only one day. If it happens
right.
like that, then can you imagine? But there's a way also to balance. I'll give you a quick tip now, that when on days like that, if you are making sure that you've got more vegetables and salad together with that same meal and a bit more protein, it will help your blood sugar to be a lot more balanced, and you'll feel more satisfied with the 1 or 2 slices as opposed to needing more. So there's a way around it, and there's a lot of physiology behind that. So it's good to understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. Simon, do you have any questions? Charlene, I know you're a bit shy, but if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to open your chat.
Sorry, no, I'm just distracted. Everyone's come home and there's lots going on.
Okay, all right, good. Okay.
Simone,
Yeah.
when I was teaching and another teacher came into the room, they used to say, sorry to disturb you. I used to say I was disturbed before I met you.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining me. If there are no more questions, I invite you also, if you've got any other more personal questions that obviously that you want to ask me off this forum, you're more than welcome to be in touch with me. I will again put my calendar link in the chat for the on the WhatsApp group, and I will also be sending out an email with all the information that I discussed tonight in a little bit more detail, as well as a feedback form that I'm going to email tomorrow. So I'd really appreciate if you are all able to just take a few minutes just to fill that out, so that for future presentations I have a lot more information from you, so I can really give you more of what you're looking for and what you need. And I appreciate each of you for joining for the last 3 nights. Those of you who showed up live every night, thank you so much for spending the time with me. Thank yourselves for taking some time to really learn a few new concepts and hopefully start to be able to implement them.